What is alternative rock? By definition, it's a style of rock music characterized as unconventional or outside the mainstream music. When you think of alternative rock, you think back to the 90s, an era where many label Nirvana as the first band to break through into the mainstream. Others would argue that Jane's Addiction was the first alternative rock band to break through, but I digress. You had your grunge bands in the early 90s like your Soundgardens, Mudhoney, Nirvana, and Alice in Chains. You also had some indie bands like Pavement, Sebadoh, and Superchunk, but I cannot possibly talk about the 90s and leave out all the shoegaze bands. My Bloody Valentine, Lush, Slowdive, I can go on. There was an endless stream of variety in the 90s in terms of alternative music. This music would influence many and make people want to make their own music, create their own sounds, and do whatever they wanted. Now, I wasn't around during the 90s because I was born in 2001, but when I look back at this alternative music state, I think it plateaued when Kurt Cobain died in 1994. That doesn't mean that there weren't any great bands making iconic albums, but record labels looked like they were scrambling trying to find the new Nirvana with likes of Silverchair. I actually really like Silverchair, so I have no problem with that. Music tends to move in waves, and the next wave was looking way more aggressive, and thus nu metal was born. Nu metal took over with Korn on the forefront. Now alternative rock seemed to be under the radar in the 2000s. My question is this whole thing dead now? Is alt rock dead? Alternative rock dead? Hell no. This music will never die because of the humongous fan bases within each and every band, an impact that so many bands today try to create. There is so much music in so many different areas, so many different states. For example, Texas has a wonderful scene with talented bands like Narrowhead, Glare, Trauma Ray, and Teeth. All types of genres within those bands that fall under the alternative rock umbrella. New York City has a sweet and chaotic scene with bands like Hello Mary, Waveform, Pretty Sick, and Water From Your Eyes. One of my favorite bands right now is Seattle's very own Black Ends. They describe themselves as gunk pop, which I've never heard that term before. So many different components within the band that I love. An aggressive punk rock vibe while using some phaser pedals. Very, very bouncy, topping it off with vocals that don't remind me of anybody, honestly. I can't think of anybody to compare these vocals to, so that's really cool. They are definitely one of the more interesting bands coming up right now. But yeah, there's so many great bands coming up right now, all influenced by alternative rock from the 90s. I don't want to hear that none of these bands are original, because in reality, a bunch of bands from the past ripped off from their own influences, so why are we doing that with these bands? I'll never understand that notion that you have to create something new just to be appreciated. It reeks of back in my day we had the originators. I don't know, maybe you'll always have bands that want to make what they want to make. There's going to be good bands, there's going to be bad bands. It's all subjective. To discount an influence and approach to someone's music is kind of lame. I'm going to move on and talk about some bands and some fusion of their influences and who they remind me of. Starting off with the shoegaze band Glare from Texas, and in my opinion this band is totally leading the way with this new shoegaze movement. They remind me a lot of slowdive in terms of instrumentation, but they have more of an edge, and that edge is distortion. Their vocals also remind me a little bit of Deftones, not too much, but I can't really compare it to anybody else. Less screaming, but there's more melodies there. It's really a great band to listen to if you haven't heard of them. Moving on to the band Millie, a band that originated in Connecticut but moved to Los Angeles, and they've been there for a while, so I'm going to say they're from Los Angeles. They are more on the indie side of things, which I adore. There are plenty of bands out there with indie influence, and this band is definitely one of them. They remind me sort of Pavement and Sebadoh. Soft, smooth vocals that we can all sing together. Choruses that are really, really catchy. They create a loud noise that catches you off guard sometimes, but that just shows you that they have that gear as well. This is just a small batch of bands, but I can go on and on about all these different bands in different states and all these scenes. Let me know if you want a video about that, any specific state. Alternative rock is alive and well, and many bands pay respect to their influences. those bands from back then give us a reason to make music today while listening to others. We are all here together enjoying the noise. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok with links down below. I make content on TikTok about different topics all the time with music. You can follow me there if you want. If not, do whatever you want. Goodbye.